COVID-19.
The FDA approves COVID vaccine booster doses for people who are immunocompromised. I'm Zach Dodge with the details.
In leaked audio, the Homeland Security Secretary calls the situation at the border unsustainable. We'll have that audio and reaction from Border Patrol agents.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abbey. The Missouri State Highway Patrol says a Miller, Missouri woman died in a crash on I-44 near Mount Vernon. The patrol's crash report says Demetra Mons drove her car off the road, then overturned. Mons passed away at the scene. Highway Patrol is also reporting the death of an Orinoco man on Stockton Lake. Authorities say Stephen Courtney was wading into the water, fell into a deep area, never resurfaced. Courtney was 51 years old. Tina Mae Duffel was murdered back in 1974. Now the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation is offering a $10,000 reward for information about that murder. Officials say 37-year-old Duffel was found in Prairie Dog Pond, about a half-mile northwest of Quapaw, Oklahoma. Investigators believe she was either abducted or left with someone from the C&D grocery store in Quapaw, where she was working at the time. Again, $10,000 reward for more information that's going to help with this investigation. Nick Kelly joining us now. First look at the forecast. Still humid today, Nick, but felt much nicer.
Yeah, definitely helped with the front working through Jordan, not to mention plenty of cloud cover and some scattered rain and storms. 70 this morning. Thankfully, the best we could do was 88 degrees this afternoon. So we're still keeping an eye on an area of rain and thunderstorms in our very far southern counties. But if we take a closer look at the radar, the best rain chances we have on the board is southwest of Grand Lake, even a couple areas near the Bull Shoals near the Missouri-Arkansas state line. But the overall trend for the rest of the night is to start the evening out with maybe a few struggling showers or storms to hold together. But once we hit sunrise, we'll have lows back near 70. A quiet start to the day, Jordan. Hopefully we'll see if we can keep this break from the heat going for the rest of the weekend. Here in a bit.
All right, Nick, thanks so much. Freeman health officials say 1 out of every 5 patients admitted to Freeman hospitals with COVID-19 will die. Freeman hosted a media briefing today to provide an update on COVID in their facilities. Officials say they are averaging 60 COVID patients at a time, many of them dealing with severe symptoms. Dr. Rob McNabb says it's those patients with severe symptoms most likely to die.
Almost exclusively, those are the patients who are the very sickest, who are requiring complete ventilator care or more therapy like ECMO. So that is the population most at risk. And currently, I think 20% death rate is just abysmal.
Freeman still operates 3 COVID-19 units, the intensive care unit, the COVID-19 step-down unit, and the medical COVID-19 unit for less severe cases. According to the CDC, 40 to 44% of people who are hospitalized with COVID-19 after they were vaccinated are people with weakened immune systems. So the FDA has signed off on those people getting a third dose of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. KOAM's Zach Dodge has more details.
An additional dose could help increase protection for these individuals, which is especially important as the Delta variant spread.
So now, roughly 7 million Americans at the highest risk of death from COVID have the option of getting another dose of COVID vaccine. The FDA has signed off on giving third doses of Pfizer or Moderna vaccine to people with weakened immune systems, like those who've had solid organ transplants or have a similarly weak immune system.
Probably cancer, HIV, other diseases.
The FDA says those people will qualify for a third dose 28 days after their second shot. The agency has not mentioned additional doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
We've had questions from people who are at a level of immunocompromise asking about that third dose. And so until now, we've had to turn them away.
Larry Bergner at the Newton County Health Department expects more guidance from the state early next week on the full requirements and a more comprehensive list of conditions that would make residents eligible. After that happens, he expects getting the third dose to be pretty straightforward.
What I envision is that if someone calls asking about that third dose, we'll have them talk to their primary care physician just to make sure that their physician is in agreement that they do meet that criteria and then we'll be glad to give them that booster dose.
But what about the rest of the population? U.S. health officials say it's not yet time for booster doses for everyone else, and the World Health Organization has asked for a moratorium on booster doses, at least until vaccination rates in other countries can increase.
I think we're still a few months away, is my opinion.
The CDC has said, however, that roughly 1 million people have already received a third dose of either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. It's unclear if those people had weakened immune systems. In Neosho, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
A recent study published in the New England Journal of Medicine showed that 55% of transplant patients who received a third dose had good antibody levels. That's compared to the 18% of people in the study who received a dummy shot. For comparison, there is growing concern about how young people are being affected by the coronavirus resurgence as they head back to school. One study tells us hospitalizations for pediatric patients have more than doubled recently. Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seary has the latest now from Atlanta.
Children, once considered relatively safe from COVID-19, are being hospitalized with severe cases in increasing numbers, occupying as many as 1 in 5 beds in some Texas pediatric hospitals.
Where we have higher rates of infection among children is where we have lower rates of vaccination in general.
Pediatric patients now represent 3.5% of all hospitalizations in the U.S., more than twice the figure earlier in the pandemic, according to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. In the past week, COVID hospitalizations for all ages increased nearly 37%, with more than 62,000 Americans occupying increasingly precious beds. In Mississippi, which has one of the lowest vaccination rates in the country, the federal government is staffing a 50-bed field hospital to relieve some of the pressure on crowded medical facilities.
Our ICUs today are full. Our patient beds are full. So, we continue to be in that situation where the bed capacity is extremely tight.
I'm used to this.
The FDA authorized and the CDC recommended a third dose of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines for people with weak immune systems. Boosters for healthy individuals may come later if the Delta variant shows more resistance to the standard 2-dose regimen. In one study awaiting peer review, Mayo Clinic researchers estimate that by July, the Moderna vaccine's effectiveness against COVID infection had declined to 76% and the Pfizer vaccine to 42%. However, both vaccines continued robust protection against severe illness and death.
With Delta, people, even though we're vaccinated and we have good immune systems, this virus can cause mild infections, akin to a common cold, or it might even put you in bed for a day or two, but you don't have to go into the hospital.
Today, Chicago Public Schools announced all of its employees must be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by October 15. Those with religious or medical exemptions must undergo routine testing throughout the year. In Atlanta, Jonathan Seary, Fox News.
Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is privately admitting the situation along the southern border is unsustainable. The leaked audio is from yesterday's trip to South Texas. Fox News chief correspondent Jonathan Hunt has the latest from La Joya, Texas.
Another day, another stream of migrants, these families from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, saying, as most do, that they began their journey to the U.S. because of violence and economic hardship at home. In the blazing hot midday sun, Border Patrol agents work to process them, as the agents do every day and night. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas met with some Border Patrol agents during his visit to South Texas Thursday. And in audio of part of that meeting obtained by Fox News, the Secretary appeared more candid than he has ever been publicly in his assessment of the border crisis.
If our border is the first line of defense, we're going to lose, and this is unsustainable. We can't continue like this. Our people in the field can't continue, and our system isn't built for it.
And the Secretary acknowledged the strain on Border Patrol agents.
I know very well, hearing from Chief Hastings, Chief Ortiz, and others, how close we came to breaking, how close you came to breaking here in this sector. And it's our responsibility to make sure that never happens again. We don't get that close again.
The new Border Patrol Chief, Raul Ortiz, tells us he is fired up and ready to go. But with the number of migrant encounters surpassing 212,000 in July, he believes it's an uphill battle, especially during the pandemic.
Even though I have almost 20,000 Border Patrol agents, 400 of those are in a quarantine status because they were exposed to COVID. I've lost 8 Border Patrol agents to COVID already this year.
And getting back to the Homeland Security Secretary's sympathetic words for Border Patrol agents we've spoken to here tell us they are just words. They would rather see actions. In La Jolla, Texas, Jonathan Hunt, Fox News.
KOM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes its time now to honor another 4-state hero. Frank Lesher served in the U.S. Army from 1943 to 46. Native of Stella, Missouri, Lesher was stationed in Japan. We are proud to thank and salute Frank Lesher. He's tonight's 4-state hero. Nick is next with a complete look at the forecast. A bit later, the McDonald County Mustangs aiming to build off their big season in 2020. Going to hear from the team in sports.
Broadcom.
Well, it was certainly nice to cool down after we had quite a hot and humid day yesterday. Granted, we had to see temperatures come down as a result of a lot of cloud cover, not to mention some scattered rain and storms at times, but still, it's a Friday. It's great to have the weekend kick off once again, even though we had a bit of an active sky from Indigo Sky Casino Resort outside of Seneca, Missouri. Joplin Regional picked up 0.04 of an inch of rain, but we're still doing okay overall in terms of rain. Almost 33.5 inches for the year, putting us almost 4 inches above normal for this time of the year, and not too far off where we were last summer at this point, where we were pushing 34.5 inches of rain. We have seen most of the rain this evening stay along the Missouri-Arkansas state line in the area south and west of Grand Lake. In fact, these storms were really potent when they got going this afternoon. In fact, we had a couple severe thunderstorm warnings around Benton County, Arkansas. In fact, the entire county had to deal with at least 60-mile-per-hour winds and some quarter-size hail. But this area of rain has really started to taper off quite a bit. We just have a little bit of light rain, mainly south and west again, the Grand Lake from Grove and Jay points back towards Pin Oak Acres. And any heavy areas of rain, light to moderate areas of rain, mainly around the Bull Shoals, and as you continue along the Missouri-Arkansas state line deep into the Ozarks. As far as temperatures go, these numbers look a lot better compared to yesterday. We're in the mid-70s right now at 9:15, and thankfully, we're not seeing too much in the way of the humidity. So that means it actually feels like what it says on the thermometer outside. In fact, we can go outside looking okay from 7th and Rangeline. We're at 75. Thankfully, it feels like 75. And how about that? A light north breeze at 5 miles per hour. We had our area of rain and storms for today because of a weak frontal boundary, a stalled out boundary rather, staying in place for the next few days. And as long as that sticks around before it washes out by early next week, we are going to get a break in the action as we go deeper into the overnight and certainly to start Saturday morning out. But during the day tomorrow, as that front's still around, I would not be surprised if we had a random storm or two pop up. So the day planner starts at 70 in the morning, 81 by noon, afternoon highs right around 87. Any stray storms we have to start the evening out will fizzle away with the setting sun. We'll have a nice start to Sunday morning before we see, again, maybe an isolated storm or two for Sunday. The same goes for Monday. Before the frontal boundary washes out, maybe a stray storm or two. But as we go into Tuesday in the middle of next week, an upper level low actually starts to develop on top of us. That's going to give us a better shot for more widespread scattered showers and thunderstorms. So what does that do with temperatures? Hopefully, I only hit that button once, Jordan. I don't know why it went to the next slide, but hopefully I can quickly get to the 7-day forecast because, again, these are numbers that we need to see, especially after it was so hot and humid this week. 87 tomorrow, 86 Sunday, staying in the upper 80s until we hit 92 on Thursday. So still a bit warm, but the humidity is going to help us out a little bit, and the rain chances will certainly keep us out of the 90s.
It's nice to get cooler. Even the technology needs a break from all the heat.
Yeah, it kind of does, apparently.
Nick Kelly, thank you. Some developing news tonight. The Joplin School Board met in a special session to approve a re-entry plan for the upcoming school year. The board was presented a plan and after discussion decided to accept it with some modifications. The first of which, take a look right there, Masks for students and staff are going to be voluntarily worn at all district buildings. Additionally, students and staff who are identified as a close contact and required to quarantine may remain in or immediately return to school, provided they wear a mask while in the district buildings and exhibit no COVID-19 symptoms. After 10 days, that person won't have to wear a mask, or if they provide a negative test result within 5 days, they can stop wearing a mask at that time. All right, coming up, the situation seemingly getting worse by the day in Afghanistan.
The Pentagon responding to questions about the recent Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. I'm Mallory Rivera in Washington with what top officials are saying about the ongoing situation in the country.
The Pentagon providing new information tonight about the situation in Afghanistan. Taliban militants have been able to take control of more territory, and now the U.S. is responding with 3,000 troops to help evacuate personnel. Fox's Madeline Rivera is in D.C. with the latest.
Fear rising in Kabul as the Taliban closes in on the capital city. At least half of Afghanistan's 34 provincial capitals currently under the group's control in a rapid sweep of the country that has shocked U.S. officials.
We are certainly concerned by the speed with which the Taliban has been moving.
Last month, President Biden said of a potential Taliban takeover,
"It is not inevitable."
Now, 3,000 U.S. troops are heading to the country to help with the evacuations of U.S. Embassy staff in Kabul as the security situation gets worse.
We are going to continue to have a diplomatic presence on the ground in Afghanistan. Our embassy remains open.
The White House says the president is still standing by his decision to pull back U.S. presence in weeks in an effort to end its two-decade war. But many are criticizing the president's strategy, calling for more support for Afghan forces.
We need to have a new plan for how we're going to defend ourselves in the region.
Nearly 120,000 Afghans have fled to Kabul province this year, per the UN Refugee Agency. Some warning of a disastrous outcome should Kabul fall.
The situation has all the hallmarks of a humanitarian catastrophe.
Officials, meanwhile, are destroying sensitive documents and equipment at the U.S. Embassy in Kabul as staff get ready to leave. The bulk of the troops sent to help with evacuations are expected to arrive by the end of the weekend. In Washington, Mallory Rivera, Fox News.
Next, more than 100 wildfires across the western U.S.
Sweltering temps and dry conditions continue fueling the West wildfires. I'm Marianne Rafferty in Los Angeles. I'll have the latest coming up.
Program. Learn more at neoshow.edu.
Wildfires continue to devastate the western United States, and weather conditions fueling the flames remain in the forecast. Fox News correspondent Marianne Rafferty has more from California.
More than 100 wildfires continue to rage across the western United States, fueled by high temperatures and dry conditions. Extreme drought leaving trees, grass, and brush completely dry and ripe for ignition. Several thousand people under evacuation orders in Montana as the Richard Spring Fire advances toward the Northern Cheyenne Indian Reservation. Hundreds more in surrounding towns also given orders to leave after the fire expanded more than 200 square miles, crossing roads, creeks, and fire lines.
It's just been closing in quicker and quicker every day.
Meanwhile, the Dixie Fire in California continues to threaten dozens of communities. The fire is currently the largest burning in the nation and has destroyed nearly 1,000 acres, 550 homes, and sits at approximately 30% containment.
Everything that I own is now ashes or twisted metal. That's just all it is.
The fire almost completely destroying the town of Greenville. People there now trying to wrap their minds around the magnitude of loss and the long road ahead.
You want to see people rebuild, but the style of the homes and the community and the ability of people to be able to come back and do that, to have the resources to rebuild the way it was, it's daunting.
I mean, sure, I got to cry. I'm heartbroken. Yeah, but that's not gonna rebuild Greenville.
Wildfires have burned more than 900,000 acres so far this year in California, making it the worst year on record. In Los Angeles, Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
Coming up, a find that researchers say is the best ever. 2 well-preserved Ice Age lion cubs.
Sharon's names.
This is amazing. 2 newly discovered lion cubs may be the best preserved Ice Age animals. Look at that. Scientists are now studying the cubs, said to be male and the other female, after finding their well-preserved remains in Siberian permafrost. A scientist studying the animals says the female, nicknamed Sparta, is, quote, the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. The male, dubbed Boris, is said to be a bit more damaged, but still in good condition. Scientists estimate Sparta is nearly 28,000 years old, and Boris is more than 43,000 years old himself. That is amazing. You know, they're so well preserved. It almost looks like something from today's age. Almost. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming your way.
It's move-in day at MSSU, but with the Delta variant still raging, this year's move-in day is looking a lot like last year's. You'll hear what students and parents think coming up.
Also, volunteers coming together in Fort Scott, Kansas to help keep the city's downtown looking beautiful. Missouri Southern was busy today as students moved back to campus. Now, earlier in the summer, it looked like the school year wouldn't see quite as many pandemic restrictions, but of course the Delta variant changed all that. KOM's Mike Mahoney spoke to students and parents to find out how they feel about campus coronavirus safety.
There was no shortage of students and parents unpacking and saying their goodbyes for Move-In Day 2021 at MSSU. But with the Delta variant raging throughout the country and the 4-state area, last year's campus pandemic restrictions were back as well. But the students who spoke to KOAM seemed to be taking it in stride.
I think we're doing the same safety measures we did last year to ensure that we don't have a big COVID spread, especially in the housing department. I think we're taking the right precautions. And of course it helps that there's also vaccines, but also with the Delta variant, who knows? So going back to the mask idea, it's a good idea.
A big difference this school year is that COVID-19 vaccines are available, and many vaccinated students say that helps them focus on school instead of worrying about the pandemic.
Honestly, I feel it takes us a little bit of a load off because granted there is a small chance I could still get it, but I feel a little bit more safer knowing that I'd have at least a fighting chance and a better chance of not getting it.
And it's not just students whose minds are at ease thanks to the vaccine. Parents who spoke to KOAM say the shot is making it a lot easier to say goodbye to their kids.
I don't have any concerns about it. Like I say, we've been vaccinated.
But it's not just the vaccinated who are feeling safe moving into campus. Churchill Williams V, who admits he hasn't been vaccinated but is thinking about it, says he feels protected on campus because of how seriously his fellow students are taking the pandemic.
People don't really just be so crowded up together, you know, because they already know the pandemic is going on, so they're pretty aware to not be so close to others. So everybody's been doing a good job being safe and wearing their mask and, you know, just playing everything cool.
In Joplin, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
Students moving to campus today had one of 4 options. They could show proof of vaccination, proof of a negative test within the last 72 hours, proof of fully recovering from COVID-19 within the last 90 days, or they could get tested during check-in, then quarantine. Cox Health held its annual Salute to First Responders today. All Cox Health locations took part, including Cox, Barton County. The salute is held in honor of local first responders and is designed to thank them for their efforts to keep folks in the area safe. Lunch was provided, but due to COVID-19 was served to-go style.
These people run nonstop. They also play a big role in helping taking care of our patients and getting them to where they need to be.
This is the 6th year for the Salute to First Responders. The annual Shoal Creek Water Festival is taking place this weekend. The event features a number of fun activities for people to enjoy, including a fishing derby, live music, food trucks, boat races, and a lot more. The festival also provides some helpful information when it comes to safety on the water.
Stuff that the kids get, there's some older Shoal Creek Water Festival t-shirts. There's some information about why water is so important. We've got some cool little bracelets, some rain gauges, things like that.
Shoal Creek Water Festival begins tomorrow at 9 a.m., runs until 2:30. The Shoebox Boat Race is slated for noon. City of Fort Scott, Kansas today hosted its community cleanup. We went there to learn how the effort brought some new restoration, also some newfound beauty to the community. KOM's Jake Tackaberry has more.
Art is subjective. To many, these sounds are obnoxious. But today in Fort Scott, this was the beautiful sound of a community coming together with one goal: beautifying their home.
This is the best thing about small town, is when people just come together.
The Fort Scott Chamber of Commerce hosted a downtown cleanup. They invited out the entire community to help, and boy, did they respond.
Almost 300 kids, students from the local community college, which is just amazing because a lot of these kids do not live here.
Volunteers were getting their hands dirty, cleaning up flower beds, doing a little weed eating, leaf blowing, and painting. That's right. Some of the beauty in today's event was less subjective and more obvious.
So we have 2 local artist groups that are here.
There are now 2 new murals in downtown Fort Scott, and while the work is done for now,
This is really great. I know we're going to do this again.
and that's good news for the volunteers and artists who got the chance to see the beauty of their neighbor's community spirit.
It's really cool for the town of Fort Scott.
This is great stewardship that people are doing.
The chamber provided all the necessary tools, including paintbrushes, weed eaters, and rakes. A bit later, looking at one way the nation is changing.
New census data shows America is more diverse than ever before. I'm Kevin Cork in Washington with more on America's new makeup over the past decade. That's just ahead.
If you've been
Even though it was nice to always get to a Friday and get this weekend underway, it certainly felt better compared to the past several days where it was really hot and humid. We had to deal with the humidity in a different form though for today, even though we saw mainly quite a bit of cloud cover over Indigo Sky Casino and Resort outside of Seneca, Missouri. We actually had to deal with a couple rounds of rain and thunderstorms, some from late last night into the early morning hours, and then an afternoon round of storms, as Doug advertised, in our southern counties during the late afternoon and certainly into this evening. On the average, an inch of rain, according to radar estimates. Of course, heavier amounts from last night and this morning in our northern counties, with any of the heavier rains this evening, again, mainly along the Missouri-Arkansas state line. But this activity has seen a gradual decrease in coverage and even intensity. We don't have a lot in much of the area, at least, on the radar network. And if we want to take a quick tour, the only solid area of rain that I see is working over the Bull Shoals, east of Table Rock Lake, along the Missouri-Arkansas state line. But I'm telling you, temperatures, they felt so much better today compared to yesterday. We hit the upper 90s. I think Doug said 98 yesterday, but a lot better with highs, at least into the upper 80s for today. So still pretty warm, but it really helps to knock that thermostat down quite a bit. 75 in Joplin. North breeze at 5, and the humidity still a little bit high at 84%. Most of us are in the mid 70s right now, and we'll continue to slowly drop off back near 70 overnight, while we still have at the surface this frontal boundary that's going to hang around for a few more days, and not to mention a few more weak waves along this jet stream sitting right on top of the region. That's going to keep at least a chance for a few isolated storms for the next few afternoons. But I think overall we'll be in good shape, certainly by the time we head towards sunrise. Overnight lows drop back near 70, partly sunny skies during the day, but you can see on the tail end of the future track here, maybe a couple of storms late in the afternoon and by early evening. But again, it's going to be really hit and miss, emphasis on miss instead of hit. 70 in the morning, 81 by noon. We'll have afternoon highs around 87 degrees. Fast forward to Sunday morning, we'll drop back into the mid 60s. The future track here is kind of overshooting temperatures into the upper 80s. I'm thinking mid 80s, but again, can't rule out a stray storm or two during the afternoon. However, note what happens on Monday. We'll have to deal with maybe a stray storm or two, but this upper low develops on top of the region. And look at what it does for the middle of the week. That keeps rain chances around, better rain chances at least, and that will certainly help us out with temperatures before we see a better cold front come our way by Friday. So Jordan, these numbers are looking a lot better compared to what we dealt with over the past week. 87 tomorrow, 86 Sunday, upper 80s Monday through Wednesday, a quick jump to 92 on Thursday, but then back into the mid 80s with the cold front coming in on Friday.
A lot nicer. I agree.
A little lower humidity, lower temperatures. I'm all for it.
Me too. Nick Kelly, thank you. The big business of pets, pet category, has become one of the hottest growing sectors in retail in recent years. Well, now Target is entering the arena with a new store brand over a year in the making. Target's new Kindful line features over 50 wet and dry foods, treats, and more for those cats and dogs. Our family always says we have 4 kids. 2 of them humans, 2 of them dogs, of course. because they're part of the family, Coming up in sports, a former Webb City standout is named a captain for Missouri State football. Also, going to hear from the McDonald County Mustangs as they try to maintain momentum this fall. Jacob Leonard has the story next.
Well, the McDonald County Mustangs are finishing up their first week of fall football practice, and the Mustangs have a little momentum after picking up some big wins last year. Now they're hoping that momentum carries them to bigger things this fall. The energy is real around McDonald County football.
I definitely think there's some excitement and some expectation, maybe that hasn't been there before. Again, from our team, our school, our community. I think everybody's kind of excited to get these guys back on the field.
McDonald County has some momentum after going 5-5 last season, including a win over Lamar and their first ever playoff win.
You can just tell that our kids have had a little bit different motivation throughout our off season and everything that we've done throughout June, July, and this early part of fall practice.
You can definitely feel momentum from last year, some big wins, and we're not satisfied with last year. We wanted to win more, but there's still some momentum. It was a good year to build on.
They want to get back there. They want to have a chance to compete for that conference championship again, have a chance to compete, win a couple playoff games, and have a chance to compete for a district championship. A couple things that this school's never been able to do.
The Mustangs returned 15 starters between the offense and defense, including senior quarterback Cole Martin. Martin threw for 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns last season, while scoring 3 more touchdowns on the ground.
This year the game's really slowed down for me, just reading the defense a lot easier, I think, but it's big time having them big guys up front for me, and they've been there for 3 years probably, and they know the whole offense, and more comfortable to step back and drop and throw it because I got time to throw and everything.
He's just one of those guys, everybody's gonna look up to him, respect him, underclassmen, upperclassmen, because he's one of our dudes, and just his skill and his attitude, his competitiveness, his edge he brings to the team is, what we all look up to.
You can just see him going through his pre-snap reads and his post-snap reads and everything. You can just tell he's a step ahead of where he was last year, just as far as everything.
Martin and the other 15 seniors on the roster are hoping this year is when they see their work and the momentum pay off.
There's a lot of our guys last year to play football, in their careers maybe, so definitely, want to not let anybody down, do the best we can, make the most of it.
It's our last year, so we put it all out there.
This is their last chance, and I think they know that, and you can kind of feel that sense of urgency from them. It's go time. We need to bring that consistency every single day.
McDonald County opens the season at home on the 27th, hosting the Aurora Hound Dogs. A former Webb City standout, Landon Beebe, has been named an offensive captain for Missouri State football. And Beebe earned all-conference honors last year as a sophomore and is heading into his 4th year playing on the Bears' offensive line. Now, we caught up with the former Cardinal to talk about what it means to him to be named a captain for the fall.
It's just straight from the team. So, just to be recognized by my teammates as one of the leaders on the offense, I'm just extremely grateful. They push me every day to, be the best that I can be. So I wouldn't be where I am without them today, for sure.
Beebe was a 2-time All-State selection for Webb City, helping the Cardinals to an undefeated state championship season as a senior in 2017. You can check out our full story with Beebe at KOAMNewsNow.com. That's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
The latest data from the 2020 census shows America has undergone a huge makeover. Fox News correspondent Kevin Cork has more on the new demographics and which population is seeing historic declines.
The wait is finally over. After months of delay due to the pandemic, the Census Bureau is finally releasing new data from 2020, and the results show a more diverse nation than ever before, with the population of white Americans dropping for the first time since records began back in 1790.
The white population is still the largest racial and ethnic group in the U.S., but its share of the overall population is declining.
Hispanics now make up almost 20% of the population, while the Asian population has increased by more than a third over the past decade.
A large reason for that, in the past, it was immigration, and that still played a role over the past decade.
The report also found the country is getting older, citing a decrease in birth rates as the number of adults increased by more than 10% since 2010. Officials say the Northeast now has the smallest population of people under 18. The South has the largest. Meanwhile,
people from smaller counties in the past decade moved to larger counties.
Experts are citing major growth in urban areas.
80% of the metro areas in the U.S. Saw growth. We're talking about cities like Houston and Dallas-Fort Worth.
The census information is based on where people were last April. Therefore, it won't show the full impact of the more than 600,000 Americans who died due to COVID-19. In Washington, I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
Got some info about a new Nicolas Cage movie, plus some other tidbits about this and that. Coming your way in Hollywood Nation. There's an update on the theatrical release of Tom Hardy's Venom sequel, Tony Bennett's Fall Tour. Here's Fox's action of working with the latest from the Hollywood Nation.
We are not the ones who hold her captive.
Cage takes on a deadly mission. Bennett hangs up his mic, and the symbiote antihero gets delayed again in the Hollywood Nation.
Hey, Mrs. Chen.
Good evening, Venom.
Mrs. Chen.
Bad news for Venom fans. Tom Hardy's symbiote antihero movie sequel, Let There Be Carnage, has been postponed again due to the surge in coronavirus cases caused by the Delta variant. Sony Pictures announced it's moving the film release date from September 24th to October 15th. The comic book adventure has been delayed several times during the pandemic.
Love is funny.
Tony Bennett will not be returning to the stage to perform this fall. The legendary crooner has canceled the remaining shows of his 2021 tour. The 6-date concert, originally postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic, was scheduled to begin September 25th in Connecticut. He celebrated his 95th birthday last week, performing with Lady Gaga at 2 sold-out concerts at New York's Radio City Music Hall. The 19-time Grammy Award winner has been battling Alzheimer's disease since 2016.
It's been 2 days, and still she is missing.
And the first trailer to Prisoners of the Ghostland starring Nicolas Cage has been released. He plays an imprisoned bank robber known as Hero, recruited by a wealthy warlord to find and rescue his granddaughter in exchange for his freedom. But the mission is not that simple. If he fails, the time-activated bombs attached to him will go off. The neo-noir Western will be released September 17th. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of bear cubs. Look at those guys playing in a Ukrainian sanctuary. Have a great, safe weekend. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.